Hello, everyone. We are always delighted to speak with design students as you quickly become amazing professionals, breaking new ground, contributing creative energy toward new design solutions. And we are here with you today to share with you our craft, which is the making of fine wood furniture. And over the course of 113 years, Carl Hansen has been able to keep this alive and produce authentic classics designed for us in the world, for your instant gratification and also all this internet speed we have going on. An important aspect of our program and bringing product to market is an apprentice program. And so we have an investment in students every day. And through the next 40 minutes, we're going to talk about that program and give you a little bit more insight as to how that contributes to our craft. But first, I want to make some introductions. With us today from Denmark is Knud Erik Hansen, our owner and CEO. In his company that was established in 1908 by his grandfather and father. And since he's been involved in the company, there's been tremendous growth. We're 20 employees and up to over 400 employees. Worldwide, and also experiencing tremendous growth over the last 11 years consecutive growth, which is amazing. And I'm sure he will certainly be sharing with you more about the history, growth, and his passion. And also with us from Denmark is Mads Holm-Rødberg, and he's head of product development and is also based in Funen, Denmark, which is toward the center of Denmark. That's where our facilities are located. Mads works closely with product designers in their studios to ensure that products are produced according to original sketches and authenticity. We're so pleased to have him join us today and share his insider's role and view about this apprentice program. So also a little about my background. I was trained in undergrad in interior design, and I quickly fell in love with the creative process. And through serendipity was attracted to the manufacturing of fine furnishings, where I've spent the last 25 plus years of my career. My dad builds furniture in his personal workshop. It's his hobby. So maybe there's some DNA that's rubbed off throughout the years in what I love to do. I am happy to be here. I'm the director of North America. And also I'm vice president of Be Original Americas, and really happy to be part of this process that we're educating students about not only authenticity, but sustainability and what careers are out there in the creative process. So I'm going to move along now and ask Knud Erik if he can share a little bit more about his background and how did this whole apprentice program get started?
Certainly, I would be delighted to do that. Hello, everybody. Carl Hansen Søn is still a family company. It was founded by Carl Hansen in October 1908. He started with a small workshop in a city in Denmark called Odense, supplying the people in the city foremost, and making bespoke furniture to measure for each individual customer. This was, he was a very kind man, a very nice person that had the idea that he would supply a first-class product at a decent price, and then hopefully his customers would return to him and ask for more. And it was exactly what happened. And he, despite quite some competition, he built up a very nice company, which lasted up till 1934, when he had a heart attack, unfortunately. And he also had some diabetes, and he had to kind of semi-retire. My dad had to take over. He was only 23 years old, so he felt it was far too early, but he had finished his apprenticeship, and so he was forced into the business. It was just before the Second World War, and during the war, we produced oak furniture, Windsor chairs, and furniture made out of local wood, in Denmark. We didn't have to import anything, and they managed through the 5 years of war. And then after the war, one thing that the war brought us was mass production, or can you say series production, and there he wanted to get into that. To get something moving, he had to identify a good architect, and he did in 1949. 1947, he met up with a young architect in Copenhagen, who made some very different furniture to what you actually saw at that time, and his name was Hans J. Wegner. These two had something in common, and they made the one was an excellent architect. The other one should show later on to be an excellent businessman, but they were both carpenters, and they can you say their common ideas was their love for wood and for first-class carpentry. And of course, they started working together in 1949, and we started up with 4 different products, and the company grew quite substantially. And it actually all started in the United States, because the Danes and the people in Northern Europe felt this was way too avant-garde. But in New York and San Francisco, my dad managed to get going. And in fact, it became a very big business in the United States, especially in San Francisco. We caught on very well. It was, of course, very important for my dad to see young carpenters being educated in the best possible way. So he started actually making a school or an academy for apprentices way back in, I would think it was 1954. And the idea there was that they should have their own workshop. They should not participate in the business as such, and they should only work with bespoke furniture, so furniture to order, and make them as my granddad started his business. That became also quite a substantial business and very interesting. I don't think we made money on it, but we got the best educated apprentices in the whole of Denmark. And I think during the years up till 1963, we had a lot of young people going through the school and the learning, which takes over 3 years. And they were all finishing with a medal, which is quite an achievement on their masterpieces. They all got medals. And because it was a fantastic place to learn. Unfortunately, my dad died in 1962, and we continued the business. My mother continued the business, and I only stepped in 2002, where I took over from my brother. And we ended up with the factory you see in the pictures here below. It is substantially bigger than it was in those days, but here I also would love to make to establish an academy for our apprentices, and we have done that, and we have approximately 24 apprentices now working in a separate workshop, doing again special jobs for which are ordered by in-house for ourselves, and then of course also for customers if they want something done. It's catching on, and the young people are busy. They are also having some hours in the factory in order to just know how to work in the factory as well. But most of the time they either go to school or they are working at that apprentice workshop we have. And I come there quite often, and I only see smiles. I think they're extremely happy to work with us, and being so well informed and taught exactly the old way of doing the carpentry. I think it's important to do the carpentry, to know how to do things from basic. And then, of course, later on, they will be introduced to CNC machinery and all that kind of stuff. But they will have a much better understanding on the wood and this material they are handling, which is alive when a lot of it, like oak, is very much alive when you work with it, and can make some big surprises in the middle of constructing a piece of furniture. And if they don't know that, we could run into tremendous claims and things like that, which we are not having any of, which is quite nice because they're well educated. We only employ qualified carpenters here at Carl Hansen Søn, and many of them now have been educated locally.
And Mads needs to share a little bit about his background, but when we were preparing, I was surprised that some of the apprentices come here without any experience at all. So thanks, Knud, Eric, and Mads. Talk a little bit about your background, but also share how do these apprentices get into the program and how it's shared with the local schools as well, and how it's tied to the schools.
Yeah, my own background is I'm actually have an engineering degree in design. It's a special degree here in Denmark, and we have free education in Denmark. So everyone can get the education that they have the desire for. And we team up with, I think, 4 different schools around here with young people taking this degree in craftsmanship because they want to, because that's the desire. And we take them in and have this like a job interview because they're staying with us for over 3 years. So we need to pick out the ones that have the right desire for this. And then it works like that they are back and forth from school, I think 4 times. They are having a school period, then they need to be with us. And then they go back to school again, and they do that back and forth 4 times. And we try to fill out the gaps. So what they learn in school, we take it from there. What they have in the first semester, we give them the jobs in the factory, but and then make them rotate around the factory, so they go both from, like Nick said, in the workshop, but also get teamed up with a skilled carpenter in the production to see how he's doing things. So they're all circling around to learn, but most of the time they are learning, not just labor. Yeah.
Very, very neat. Knud Erik, so yes. Manufacturing today, as you were saying, is so different than when your grandfather was running the company, and you were sharing a little bit about that, but how does that tie into the core training of the apprentices? Because you were mentioning, learning these techniques, but it's so different than how we manufacture today. How does that tie together?
I find it is still so important that the carpenters are aware of how things are actually made when it's made by hand, how the craft has been developing. It is okay to see a big machine standing there or making the parts for the furniture, but it is also nice to know what goes into it, what actually was before this. In order to perhaps also be able to develop further on, and especially programming these machines, you need to know exactly how to do it by hand, because it is the same kind of functions that you see from the machine being from the hand being programmed into the machine. So I think it is important that we know about the young people knows about the craftsmanship and how it was actually made, and also get some respect for the material they're using, because it is, as I mentioned to you, it's tree, it's wood, and although it is dried and treated so that we can use it in the factory, it is still alive, and it can break, and it can have weaknesses and things like that. And if you have not been taught how to see that and how to feel it and so on, it will never be the quality that we require. So I think it is important to start from the beginning and then work your way up till a qualification to work in our factory. It goes also if you are a young doctor or anything like that, you have to learn the basic first. And then afterwards, you're getting much more technical. And this is important for the young people.
I think too, in design school, you've got to learn how to sketch, but you also have to learn how to use Revit and CAD and all of these drawing tools as well. So it's parallel with craftsmanship for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this shot with all the interesting pieces and tools and things. Mads, can you talk a little bit about the tools, some of the joinery that is important, that Knud Erik was just talking about, the basics, and how they can progress from simple tasks to more complicated tasks. How does that work? How do they move through the program?
Yeah, we have to remember that some of them comes here as like 16, 17, 18 years old, quite young. So that after the first school period, they don't know much, to be honest, and we need to train them. So one of the first things we ask them to do is make their own toolbox in wood. And we give them the standard tools to put in there. So the chisel, the hammer, and all the stuff you actually see on the image. This image, I remember how we did that for a marketing shoot, but it's actually an Apprentice toolbox that we emptied with all the bits and pieces he have used. So it is quite important, and we go through all these different kind of joints that we use in the furniture we do now, like dovetail joints. We teach them how a simple thing just to sand properly, because they need to know, even though they're going to take something from a CNC machine, they need to know when to stop using the CNC machine and make the rest of it up to hand and feel. So sanding is a big thing to learn to do that properly. So it ends up nice and smooth, and you don't ruin the shape, but you enhance it and make the feel the touch just right. So as they evolve, they get better, they get more and more difficult tasks. So they start with a simple toolbox, but then we give them more and more difficult tasks over the years. So yeah, and we have mentors. We have the old guys or the good guys in the production that is good, have the ability to learn. We team them up with them to stand beside them and work in production. And then we have a skilled guy handling all the trainees in the workshop. So he's always there to guide them and show them how to do things. Yeah.
And this is one of our favorite aspects of what we do and how paper cord is woven on a chair. And I know that the apprentices may not all be selected to be in this situation to learn how to weave paper cord, but can you talk a little bit about that process?
It's an old process in Denmark, but the paper cord was actually invented by the Swedish engineers during the Second World War, where we couldn't get any sisal for the combiners for the big harvest machinery. So they invented this paper cord, which is immensely strong. It cannot stretch, and it is not fast. You can tie a knot, and it will stay as you tie it. And we felt that this would fit the furniture extremely well. It looks so neat and perfect. And therefore, we are doing a lot of our products are woven with the paper cord. It will last for 30, 40 years. The only thing that it doesn't like is too much wetness. Don't pour water on it. It's not made for that. But you can, if you sit in it and use it as an ordinary chair, it will last for many, many, many years and look extremely well all through the years. It is actually, when we do the weaving today, that is the only unskilled people that works in Carl Hansen. That is the weavers. They are people that have not gone through the apprenticeship, but they only weave. They do nothing else. And it takes about 140 yards on a wishbone chair to weave of string to weave the whole chair. So it is a beautiful piece of work. Many of the staff love to do it because that is such a result is so beautiful, and they get very, very skilled at it. So that's another of our specialties, I would say.
Knut Erik, you get to speak to these apprentices on a regular basis.
Yes.
What do you share anything about yourself or your observations of helping them with their future? Do they get discouraged? Are there things that we do to help them?
Of course I do. And in fact, I have to, of course, be a little careful. I'm the first non-carpenter owner of Carl Hansen. I'm not educated as a carpenter. I went my own way. My brother took over the business from my mother, and so he was earmarked for that. So I had a much more freedom. So I went into shipping, and I worked everywhere in the world in the shipping business. But in 2002, I came back to Carl Hansen, and I took over the business. But I of course tell the young carpenters what possibilities they have within the four walls of Carl Hansen Søn, and that is a lot. We like to, as Mats also mentioned, we like to identify their potential, and we have three years and 4 months to do that, and we can actually place them where we find that they have their talent is best used. And some of them become programmers, some of them work in the workshop, some of them are in the PU, in the product development department, all depending on what they actually like to do and the skills that they are developing. But the best ones of them actually are very, very qualified programmers, and we teach them all that they need in order to program these big new machines that is running in the machinery shop of Carl Hansen Søn. It is a very expensive place to operate Denmark, but the skill is extremely high, and the quality that we produce is top of the world. And of course, that is so important for us to make sure that our young people live and understand this. So I make a great job trying to make a great job out of explaining this to them, that it's so important for our future, that they stay aware of the very high quality we demand.
We're just pulling some imagery in to share with the students because of the high touch and the high tech are so closely related. And I think that's, again, just an important thing to infuse with the students. One of the stories that is dear to us here in the United States is one of our bestsellers is the elbow chair. Yes. And I'd love for you to share with the students about how high touch and high tech has made this chair possible.
Yes. It was designed in 1956 by Hans Wegener. And it looks so simple. And I actually went to Inga Wegener, the widow of Hans Wegener, her 85-year anniversary or birthday. And I was sitting there drinking tea and eating a little piece of a sandwich. And in came the friends of Inga Wegener, and they were between 72 and 104. So I think that the daughter of Marianne Wegener told me that we should go into the studio and stay and leave the ladies alone. We did that, and usually there are no furniture when I get there. But when I got down, and this was, I was not, it was not the meaning that I should be there. There was this chair. And I asked Marianne, oh, wow, that looks fantastic. Can I take that with me? And have you got the drawings and all that kind of stuff? It was like, I was like a child in a candy store. But it ended up that she said to me, you can't make it. And you don't tell me that. Of course we can make it. And she said it's been offered to nearly everybody, and nobody wanted to make it because it's so complicated and it looks so simple. I was new in the business, so I said, well, I can make it. Don't worry, I'll make it. And after about half an hour of begging, she gave me the chair and said, okay, take it back to the carpenters and then come back with it because they don't want to work it. They don't want to make it. So I took it back to the factory and I showed it to the best of our carpenters, and they said, oh, no, we don't want to make it. But that wasn't the way. So we started up experimenting how to do it. And you know, the base of the chair is 9 layers of veneer that has all been pressed in one go. So that requires quite some tool to make that, and also to make it last, because it has to be very tight when it is so very firmly pressed. And then, of course, the backrest is an enormous piece of wood that has been steam bent, and after that put into a big CNC machine and carved out from that block of steam bent wood. In 1956, that was not possible. That would have cost a fortune, and it would have taken a qualified carpenters a couple of days to make that. So I quite understand that they couldn't make it, but today technically it can be done. And so we did it, and I took it back to Marianne Wegner and showed her the chair, and she was satisfied, and I got the drawings, and then we could make it in exactly the way that Hans Wegner had designed it. And it has been through the years one of our best sellers, and especially as you mentioned, Sherry, United States, you'll love that chair, and it is also a fantastic thing. It is actually it stacks, which you can see on one of the pictures, which is highly unusual for a Wegner chair, but it stacks 4 or 5 high, and that's perfect for a restaurant. It takes up no space.
I love it, the high tech and high touch.
Yeah.
This is another factory tour. If anyone ever gets to Denmark, of course, we'd love to provide tours in the future. And we hope that you ask some questions throughout this presentation. But this is another example of the high tech, and also the ability to cost savings and things that are important for an apprentice to learn as well, not just craft, but maybe a little bit of the business side too. Mads, is there anything that you can add to that that's instilled to the apprentices?
Yeah, what you see here on the picture is us laying out a complete hide of a cow, and then the machine thing in the top right left corner is taking a picture of the whole hide, and then we mark all the mistakes that are on this hide, and then we can place all the templates of the pieces that we need to cut out around these mistakes. So this is using as much as the hide as possible. And we also teach the apprentices to look for possibilities in all the scrap wood we are doing, leftovers from normal production. Could that be, if we use a little bit of creativity, could we use that piece of wood for something else? And we have started to do quite a lot of accessories we sell in our flagship stores that is made in the apprentice program, but made from leftover wood from our normal production. Yeah, so that's also quite a.
We do the same with the leather. We make aprons, we make gloves, we make warm, what's called patches for warm plates and so on, and so we use all the waste material to the utmost. So very, very little is wasted from the production. I would just finish that off by saying also that the shavings from the machinery is going directly into a big burner put up by the local municipality. And we heat up firstly the factory, which takes 52% of all the heating that this enormous heating plant can make. And then, of course, we have 400 houses around the factory that is being heated by waste from our factory. We make approximately 15, 16 tons of shavings every day. And here you can see on the picture a round table being cut out of a square piece of laminate, of wood that has been glued together. Yeah. Out of that we will make a tray, which we will, as Mads mentioned, we will sell in our about 20 flagship stores that we have at the moment around the world. They are very popular, but we don't waste anything, as you can see.
It's really great to say. And also to add to that a little bit about the restoration, Knut Erik.
Yes, that chair you see there, that is a coincidence when we were there with the photographer team. That chair you see there is 40 years old and was brought in by a customer that would like to have it refurbished and have a new seat on. And the young apprentice standing here, she has sanded it down. She has made sure that all the glues and all the joints are perfect. They were. And now the chair would go in and have an oil treatment. And then after that, a new seat put on. And then you have 40 years or 50 years left of the chair again until it comes back here for another refurbishment. And then last another 50 years. And I mean, it can carry on like this. And that is what we call sustainability.
Just going to back up here a second.
Yeah.
And Mads, the apprentices are, I understand, go back and forth as we were talking. They're out in the manufacturing facility. They go back into their little workshop and they do some other projects. Explain why that's important.
It's important also to work with their creative side. That when they work alongside the production, they are trying to achieve perfection in the design that was given by Vigna. But we try to give them projects that we use around the factory, like in-store staircases, and we use them in when we do prototyping in product development. So we can make fast prototypes with them standing right next to our office, and they can try to learn and be part of the creative side to come up with solutions to solve issues. So we're not just teaching them to be factory workers, but we're teaching them to think and experience how different methods can give different expressions of a furniture. So I believe you have some pictures of some of the projects we have given them, because while we are expanding the factory, here you go, we need a new staircase, or we need a display of chairs for our production facility. We needed a new desk for a reception, and they have built all the tables they're using in their own workshop. So we keep finding these small jobs that they learn from, but we actually can use the output of it. And they think it's quite fun, and they come up with some great ideas that we could use. So that's a big part of it, and it's very important.
That reception desk is stunning.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
You can buy it here.
Mads, and then to move on from that too is how they graduate. You know, what is the process to say an apprentice, I've gone through my 3+ years and I'm ready for a job. How do we test them, or how does their schools test them, and how do they graduate?
As part of the graduation program, they need to do a masterpiece as the last thing they do. So they prepare that, come up with ideas while they are at school, and then they build the masterpiece in our workshop. So the very skilled apprentices do very complicated things, and the more complicated they can do it in a perfect finish, the better the grade they get at the end. And I think there's actually 3 or 4 judges from different schools, the masters from the different school, judging their masterpiece. And they look at ideas and design and finish and craftsmanship. And we know also the schools, and we do the same. We urge them to attend. We have a couple of competitions here in Denmark called Skills. It's where they compete with other students from other parts of the country. And we really try to push them to go into these competitions, because that again pushes them and brings out the creativity. And yeah, so they end up doing this masterpiece, and they build it in our workshop with our guidance, but it needs to be their idea and their hands that have done everything about it.
I think that's important to the design students that are joining us today too, is how important beyond their classwork is to get involved in all these extra design competitions that are available to them to test their abilities and to grow their abilities, and also to get their work out there. So I love some of these pictures of the projects. That's great. It's really good. And Mads, you also were able to speak and ask the apprentices a few questions that we had that we wanted to share with the students. What is just some of, we don't have to read this, but just some of the, in your words, what was rewarding to them, or what their feelings were through the end of the program?
Yeah, and we got this response from Nicholas, one of the guys we have now, and I don't think Erik have ever seen this, but but it's just nice that he answers in that way, that the biggest reward about this is that he feels as he's part of the future. And he feels that he's joining the school, but it's not just a degree he's getting, it's the future of the whole trade. And that's the whole purpose of us doing this, because we are dependent of this trade staying in Denmark. Yeah,
he will be part of the family as well, you know. So, and this is important. He feels that he belongs to Carl Hansen, and is happy being here. And we are happy seeing him going on within the 4 walls here. That's nice.
I think we pulled some numbers that we between 70 and 80% of every graduate we hire here at the factory. They stay here, and I have 2 guys in my product development team that started as an apprentice with different background.
That's great. I know some of the students probably have had, some sort of a craft woodworking class, whether in their undergraduate or in maybe product development classes that they're having now. But I think it's great to show that there's this ability to be in a craft and be creative with your hands, as well as your mind, but how rewarding it can be to really work with this fine furniture. So I'm hoping that we've been able to, without walking you through the factory and meeting the apprentices, that we've given you a really good inside look at something that helps build the future of our company, and the importance of original design, and also authenticity, and what goes into making a piece of furniture and making it well as well. Knut Erik, do you have anything that you want to share with the students?
Well, now you have seen a little bit about how we're doing it here in Denmark, and how important it is for us to maintain the skills of the young people that works and are going to continue working with our products, making sure that they're absolutely perfect when they export it, for instance, to United States. And I think that is that is a very interesting thing for young people. And I think the more you learn, whatever it is, the better suited you are for the future. And I think here in Denmark, more and more people are actually realizing that they need to be able to do a skill. They can, of course, if they have the ability, they can continue studying, becoming architects and things like that, and engineers or whatever. But they have a skill and they have the background for developing themselves into some very highly qualified persons. And without the skills, the carpentry, for instance, here, they wouldn't be able to, they will not be able to do it. And it is fun for them also, of course, to be able to create new ideas and discuss this with their teachers and discuss it later on their jobs, how to improve on things with the background they have. And therefore, I think it's so important for you to look at this and to be inspired and understand that we all happy to work together and to see how the young people are developing. And without the skills, we won't get anywhere.
Okay, Mads, do you have any words of advice?
The only advice I thought of, that the big importance of that you choose a career path on something that you're passionate about, because that's the one, the students that stays here are the ones that are passionate about what they're doing. They're not just doing it this to get a job at the end. And I think that is very, it's enormously important to pick a path that keeps you going. And we also seen actually some of the apprentices that this is their second education, that they might have started up with some academical thing, but have found out that they have more joy in doing something with their hands, and then changed to this. And I can see the design proposals that hit Knut and I every week are the best design proposals, are the ones where the designer or the carpenter actually have tried to make it a one-to-one scale model. The ones that comes directly from a computer is far less finished or thought of than the one that's actually been created as a prototype or a full-scale model.
It's very good advice.
We can see also, if I can just add, we can see when you work on new products designed by, for instance, Hans J. Wegner, who I think foremost was a carpenter and secondary an architect. He was an absolute perfectionist when it came to skills around the wood and the craftsmanship. And we can see that when we start working with the furniture, how fantastic, how geniusly he worked with the material, and how much he knew about the strengths and the weaknesses on a chair, and he made it to the millimeter, absolutely perfect. And this is what gives you a tremendous respect for the man after years and years after he has died, when you start working with his products and seeing how fantastic he was. And this goes for most of the big architects we are working with from 1930 up to Hans J. Wegner. They are really skilled.
The students saw the weaving, the quick little weaving exercise of the wishbone chair, and what Knut Erik is also referring to with Hans Wegner. This chair has been in constant production at our factories for 70 years.
Yes.
And that's quite an amazing thing to think of. And I really, Mads, I really liked what you said. And I think the students that are, using computers and and having this, seeing us show how hands-on is so important for understanding the process. I think that's important for any of these students, if they can get out in the field and have apprenticeships or internships in the summertime and also participating in all these programs. I think it's great that you're able to learn from that. We have some questions, and Knut Erik and Mads, thank you so much for all of your insight, but we're going to ask a few questions here. The first one that I'm going to ask Mads to answer is, what do the apprentices find most surprising or challenging during their experience? Anything?
That was a good question. I think they actually are quite surprised how much we make them learn and not use them as labor. That we actually pull them out of production and say, do something here or come up with ideas. And they're actually doing something for our flagship stores that are actually going to be shown used. It's not something that they're just doing for the purpose of training, but we're making them do completely finished products. It gives them quite some joy that they are giving a task that is actually meant for users, and they're going to stay after they stop here. It's going to stay as a staircase on the factory for many years to go. So I know that's they're quite happy about that, and they're quite happy to be seen as a part of the company. And we pull them into projects. We pull them into development projects to say, we have here upholstery detail that we like to try several different outcomes. Could you try to give us the best way to do this? And they're quite surprised that we give them that task, because they're coming from school, are used to get told what to do, but we're trying to encourage them to give us some insight in how to do things differently.
Great. Knut Erik, this is a great question for you. How much of Carl Hansen's collections are legacy or classic designs, and how much are new designs?
You know, we have an enormous amount of can you say, classical designs in the company, and we could sit back and make these pieces of furniture and live quite well from it. But we don't feel that is enough. We also work with young architects, skilled and clever people that design new products for Carl Hansen Søn. And I would think about 25% of our production, 30% of our production is designed by young people today, and they get a tremendous chance in getting into the company and creating products that can be part of the Carl Hansen family of products, having the DNA that we are looking for, so that we use that together with the big masters furniture, and they are actually doing extremely well. So we do use young talented carpenters, and as Matt mentioned, we get nearly every day new proposals from young people. And some are good and some are not as good as they should be. But we select every year a few of the pieces we receive and work together with young people to develop new products. So I would think, as I mentioned, about 20-25%, 30% is new designed by young architects, and the rest has been created through the years by Wegner and all the other architects that we're working with.
There's another question, kind of similar to this, but asks about it in the way of apprentices. What opportunity exists for the apprentices to develop and build their own design ideas? Do we ever entertain anything?
We do. I mean, you just saw how we use some of the waste material. And I think most of what we are actually creating out of that is done by a lot of it is done by our apprentices. And it is anything from Christmas hearts to small birds and to trays and boards, to cutting boards and things like that. And they get their name as designers onto the product, and in our literature it is mentioned, their name is mentioned, and they love that. We do, as Matt's also mentioned, we encourage the young people here to take, can you say, get into creating things and being part of the creating process, and they love it, and they can play with the products as much as they like, and sometimes we are also putting that in and selling it in our own shops, and they are. I think they play along with it. They find it very, very, very nice.
Do you ever get questions from other manufacturers in our industry that are interested in this type of program and ask you about it? Do you see that this type of apprentice program will continue to grow just beyond Carl Hansen too?
Well, I think we have a good reputation in that way, but I would say it is an expensive exercise, and having your own academy, your own workshops, having skilled labor that is teaching the young people and so on. This is beyond what I think many of us do. Unfortunately, most of the young people take part of in the production, and then all that they are taught actually is what they're getting at school. And I find that is a shame, because it's not enough. They don't get the practice. They don't get enough of practicing, and we do that through here. But we have a size now that we find that it is worth the while and worth the money to educate the young people to that level where they really are qualified when they get into the workshop, and they can also contribute to our, can you say, advancement in doing things right, and this is good fun for them and for us.
There's another question kind of related to that. Are there any characteristics or skills that you wish more young designers had? What skills should we be working on developing?
They are so different. They are not two people alike. and I have a difficulty kind of making one thing more important than the other, because I mean, as long as it's connected to carpentry and to what we are teaching them, then I mean, they have absolutely free hands to discuss and to come up with ideas and to create things on their own, and so I find that I encourage, of course, as much of, can you say, creativity as possible. Be creative. It's a complicated thing. I mean, if you go through the history of furniture making and furniture design, nearly everything has been made now. It is very complicated to come up with some new ideas because they have already been developed. But we can work onto it. We can make it better. And as I find that together, when we have the people that have been apprentices here and they get together on a project like developing something new for us, or seeing a machine being made and things like that, their skills are really important, and their contribution to how we place it, how we are employing the machines and doing a new product. That is fantastic. But I think the creative part is what is so important.
The creative part also, to add to your inspiration, is also to be afraid to make mistakes. Yeah. Creativity is about learning, and you're redoing and redoing and redoing, and I think that's part of the process we haven't shown here, is because of our time, is how much time it takes to have something developed, and creativity requires making a lot of mistakes to get to the final product. So in general, don't be afraid to make any mistakes, because that's how you learn and move forward. I think we're almost out of time. Mads, did you have anything you wanted to add? And if I know We're challenging you here.
Yeah, I'm sweating.
It's okay.
Now, I can't speak.
He's speechless.
No.
Well, thank you, Mads. Thank you, Knut Erik. I know it's late in the day for you in Denmark, and I'm here in our showroom in New York City, so we have a full day ahead of us yet. But it's wonderful to speak to all of you students, and we hope that you follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and check out our website and learn more about us, and download our Revit symbols for your projects for sure. Thank you very much.